internet customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Welcome everyone to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. We're here on Inception Radio Network. As you guys all know, it's my favorite place to be, the home of my most famous app on my cell phone. It sits center front and it's really big. I got it to grow. I don't know how I did that, but I managed to do it. And it reminds me every week that I've got to be on the network, and I'm hoping you guys are joining me here every week on the network as well. And guess what we're doing tonight? We're doing a holiday special. I try to do one every year if I can, and I've got 4 very amazing guests with me. My guests this evening are going to be Chuck Poloka, my buddy Tron, Melinda Leslie, and we're going to round it up with Grant Cameron later on. So I just want to let you guys know it's been a very interesting year for me, and on my first show, coming back after the new year, I will talk about all that's happened to me this past year and what I'm planning on doing for the new year, and just what 2018's got to bring for me. So I hope you guys tune in for that. That'll be after January 1st. I believe it's on the 3rd. And yeah, it'll be a fun show. I may be my own guest. We'll see. But in the meantime, I want to bring in with me tonight on our holiday special my friend Chuck Poloka. Chuck, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. What are you guys doing for Christmas this year?
Hanging out with the family. That's what I usually do here in California. Most of my family's back east, and I don't get back there very often for the holidays.
Right.
So,
right. I know. I'm actually right as this is airing right now. I'm in Portland, Oregon. So yeah, so it'll be kind of fun. But I'm going to go over and hang out with the family. I'm going to do nothing but eat and sleep. That's all I'm going to do. It'll be great. My parents say that I come home like a bear. I come home to hibernate.
Oh, nice.
I graze the first 2 days, the 24th and 25th, and just eat and eat and eat, and then I just hit the bed for about 4 days after that. Then I eat about New Year's Eve, And no, it's the only time of year I get to sleep, so I'm really thrilled about it. But anyhow, let's get back to what you are as a contactee, because I call you a contactee because of your experiences as a child. Let's briefly recap those for the audience, because you have been on the show before, but they probably, every week I have so many people on, so it's like, they're going, Chuck Poloka? Oh yeah, who was that guy? So just briefly recap what happened to you. I know most of it was in your childhood, correct?
Correct, right. Started out when I was 2.5 years old, seeing the faces in the windows. And then
that's a great story, but we're not going to go into it tonight, but that was a great story.
The craft over the next door neighbor's trees and all, but
yeah. And didn't your sister, wasn't she part of all this too, and your brother, that you found out much later on in life?
Well, there were 7 of us, so yes, 2 of my sisters admit to waking up during abductions as well as myself. And we all saw the craft. We used to wake each other up at night and sit at the window and watch them. So,
wow. See, now this is pretty, folks. I'm telling you, my whole theory about families being involved in all this, I swear it's real. There's very few people I talk to, except for the kids that are, the only child. But everybody else tells me, I know my brother was involved. Maybe not my 2 younger sisters, but I know my brother was. And then years later, they usually find out the sisters were too, or the brother wasn't, or, just something. But it's always that way. I've never had it be where it wasn't a family involvement. Did you ever find out if your parents were involved?
Well, they never mentioned that they were, but they did see them. Wow. So... all of us did.
Yeah. So the problem we got here again is if your parents were seeing them, then they were being taken. They just didn't remember it.
Well, and when I learned when I was 13, 14 years old, and I started reading all the books, and later on, my mom asked me, well, why do you think they're not telling us? And she also admitted that, how could I admit to you as a child when you were insisting that you were being taken, that you were, and that I knew it, and there was nothing I can do about it. You'd go to bed scared to death every night, So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But, in a weird way, that's the whole thing about how we manage it, as humans. if we didn't have our parents saying, "Oh, those are little made-up monsters, and don't worry about it, and they're your imagination," if they didn't say that, you're absolutely right. We'd be a terrified species. We'd be down here cowering every night and not knowing who's going to come and get you. You know, it's really it's an amazing thing that they actually do give us the amnesia and don't let us know what's going on to the best of their ability, because obviously people like yourself are remembering, you know. This amnesia thing, actually, and I hate to say it, Chuck, I think it's a good thing, because like you said, we'd be in fear all the time. And what good is that, you know?
Right. Now, when we were young and we were watching them, we weren't in fear when we were seeing them. We were, wow, look at that. That's really cool. What is it?
I think that's great. I love that. But did they ever do anything to you on the ships that would have made you afraid? Do you remember anything at all?
No. Other than waking up and seeing their faces, and then when I would look and become aware of them, instantly, boom, right back out.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, the whole Whitley Strieber thing about him being knocked out all the time, you know, quite often, but then recovering memories later in life, he always said, you know, I'm glad I didn't remember anything when I was younger, because if I had, I wouldn't have been able to be objective about it as an adult.
Right.
You know? So it really is a good thing in a weird way. Now, what I do want to talk to you about, though, is you have some great footage up on YouTube about sky watching at your house, right? And the different crafts you've seen up there with the night vision. Mm-hmm. Tell people how that started for you, and be sure to talk about the part where your daughter got to see him too. Isn't that correct? Your daughter saw him?
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, because of that sighting is why I started the night vision. That's when I went and bought my goggles, and that was like 2008.
Great. Tell people in much detail about the 2008 sighting, because I think that's extraordinary.
Okay, so I had started laying on the ground, grounding, because I had heard that was really good for you. And a couple of months into it, I had the feeling something was going to happen, and I called my daughter, and she came out. And a couple minutes later, a craft came across the sky, blinked twice on its way across the sky, continued to go, and then the next one stopped in the middle of the sky, then flew a perfect square, and then bounced back and forth between the two upper corners of the square for maybe 20 to 30 seconds. And that it narrowed the distance, and then it went out like we couldn't see it anymore. So we didn't know if it flew up in space. But my daughter, 23 years old, going to college, was just, you know, blown away. Wow, what in the world was that?
It's just, now how low was that? Because we've talked about this before. Was it like the size of a thumbnail with your arm outstretched, or was it smaller?
This was in space, and see, this was on the same line that we see most of them flying north to south. That particular craft was flying north.
Okay.
And it was in space, because what we were seeing is the reflection of the sun off of it. And it was actually probably 45 minutes after you could see them, you could start seeing them moving in the sky.
Yes.
So it was, you know, I would have to say it was at least 100 to 150 miles away.
Sure. So we're talking way up there, like, you know, like Melinda and you and all my friends who do the UFO tours, you know, where we go out and look for them. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones we normally see.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So they're way up there, but their maneuvering is just extraordinary. I mean, that's when you know you got a real craft. If it comes in and makes a square shape and then bounces between the two corners for you know, half an hour, that's absolutely mind-boggling. You know, I've had some extraordinary sightings in my life, and I got to say, Contact in the Desert, I've had two of my most extraordinary. 2 years ago, we had these green fast walkers come shooting up the canyon there, and then they went up into space, Chuck, and they made a triangle formation. There were three of them, and they turned into a triangle, and then they just faded out. They were going way up into space. It was absolutely extraordinary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then this last year out at Giant Rock, the biggest and most amazing sighting I've ever had, and that I think most people have had in the last, 30 or 40 years, except for a crash saucer, is this F-14 or 15 or 16 is one of the latest models of fighter pilot planes chasing a UFO, and this thing is 250 feet above our heads or less, maybe 200 feet. And
Wow.
it's huge. I mean, we're talking the size of my fist in front of my face. That's how big this thing is, right? And bigger. And it was mind-boggling. We caught it on camera, and there were 62 witnesses, and nobody is talking about it. And it's just absolutely amazing. It's one of the most amazing sightings ever. No one's talking
Wow.
about it, and I'm just trying to figure out why they're not talking about it.
Right.
See? You know, what kills me, Chuck, is this was during contact in the desert, and it was Sunday night, and at that same time on Sunday night, Stephen Greer was doing a big meditation out at Orion's Point where we saw the 3 craft the year before, or 2 years before, and what's his name? Gilliland was doing a big, calling the Space Brothers down in the amphitheater. So we had 2 of the big names in ufology calling in crafts, which they never did, by the way. Nothing was seen. We're out at Giant Rock because we're all women. Okay, I'm just throwing that in there, folks. I want you to know there is a distinction in ufology that the women usually get thrown out with the trash. And we're excommunicated out to Giant Rock because we're not allowed to do a sighting in their contracts, by the way, on the same premises while they're doing it. Okay.
Wow.
So you got 5 women contactees that are out in the desert with 60 other people that we brought out there from contact in the desert, and they all signed up for this excursion. They all came out there with us, and we had the most phenomenal sighting anybody's ever had in their entire life. And, they may never see anything like it again, and no one knows about it. It's just unbelievable, Chuck.
Incredible.
I sit here and I just go, what is going on with ufology? So, that brings me to my next question for you. What do you think's going on with ufology? I mean, do you go to these conferences? Do you pay any attention? Or are you kind of like the guy that's on the shelf just observing from a distance?
I do pay attention. I've been so busy the last year to 2 years that I haven't paid as much. So, yes,
Yeah.
I try to keep up on it. And actually, I'm hoping within this next year, I come up with a lot more time there's a few things I want to do. So
Wonderful. Now, do you think you'll be speaking at the conferences, or or you're going to try, or are you just going to attend, or what do you think?
well, I'm going to try to get back out. My son, I had backed off for a while because my son was in school and my wife was concerned about his safety if I'm out there saying things that someone doesn't like. So
Right.
now he's back home, so I can get out there again.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, then, I'll be the first to say I've got a conference coming up, so who knows what you'll be involved with that. I just, I gotta go look at the roster and see what's happening. I'd love to have you there talking, because I think you and your friend Dennis, he's quite an extraordinary guy. He comes now. Tell people what you've done for us in the past. You guys show up. You bring a big screen TV, and several occasions you guys have been out at the Delta with us. You've been at my place of residence in our clubhouse. You guys have been everywhere with us. You've been at the Petaluma Senior Center.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You went to Mount Canocti with us.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We've had some real fun times, I gotta say, folks. And most of the time, you were also up in Volcano with us. So
Correct.
You've been around the block with us. Most of the places we've gone with Chuck and Dennis, we have seen some extraordinary craft on those TV screens. I mean, honest to God, just really extraordinary craft. What do you think sets you aside from other people? Because I've had other people, Chuck, show up and say, I'm going to do a sky watch, and we're going to see this and that and whatever, and we see nothing. We spend the whole night sitting there waiting for something to happen, and we see absolutely nothing. What do you think sets you and Dennis apart? I already know the answer, but I want to hear if you say the same thing I'm thinking.
Well, one, open mind and do your research. Like I think people have mentioned at a number of the sky watches, they thought we were seeing satellites. So we had them pull up their satellite trackers on their phones and prove that what we're seeing are not satellites. And yeah, do your homework. Try to be as good at doing what you do as you can possibly be. And of course, remain honest and, and real with people,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's very important, but I also think the biggest important part to the piece to your puzzle is the fact that you are a contactee. Because, yeah, because, the biggest thing that I've noticed is, James Gilliland is a contactee, so is Stephen Greer. But I'm not sure that, and I know this is going to sound really weird, folks, I'm not sure their heart is in the same place it was 10, 15, 20 years ago when they were having all the contact, because they don't seem to be having contact anymore. Isn't that odd? And I think the people who are very close to their contact, in other words, they keep it close to how they live their life. They live in a truth. They like what you just said. Look for the truth. Try to keep it real. The whole bit. That's what it's all about. And I think once you get into this whole mindset of you got to make movies, you got to make money, you got to be speaking, you got to have a contract where people are paying you thousands and thousands of dollars to show up and do all these events, and you've got all these followers. At some point, I've noticed when that starts happening for these people, they start losing their connection with these other dimensional beings. And I just love the fact that you and Dennis are so down to earth and so non-pulsed by what's happening around you and very connected to it still and looking for the truth. I think that makes all the difference as to why you're continually having contact. And I got to say that for Melinda Leslie, and I've got to say that for myself and Misha and all of us gals who go out and do these sky watching events. I think the reason they're getting those sightings every single time is because they are being true to themselves. They are not, and being true to the aliens, they're being honest with the aliens. You can't hide from them, right, Chuck? I mean, it's not like you can sit there and hide your thoughts from them. They know everything you're doing. They're like Santa Claus, right? You gotta be, you gotta be a good kid, or Santa Claus is gonna give you a lump of coal.
Right, and Dennis and I went into it with the idea that we were not going to take money for what we do, and that this was all about truth and allowing people to see what's really going on around them.
Absolutely. That's the most important piece to the puzzle. I'm starting my UFO tours in the spring here in Sonoma County, and I've invited you guys to help me with that, and I do hope you do come along and we do that. I'm finding myself, Chuck, I'm going to have to charge people for it, because I got to invest in like $10,000 to $15,000 worth of goggles.
Mm-hmm.
And there's got to be some way to pay that bill back. And make a living off of it. But at the same breath, I've also asked them, I've said to them, look, I've got to do this, help me. Do I do it, and do I charge money for it, and is it okay? And I actually got permission from them one day. I was waking up and they said, you know what, if you need to do that, you go right ahead, because the bottom line is you're going to be doing it, to help people that are not in the UFO community become aware of it. It's very different than, I think, running out there with all the people that are in the UFO community. I would never charge them. I would never in my wildest dreams think of charging anybody that's a contactee already. I mean, what's the point in that? But I am going to be hitting a lot of people up that have never seen a craft, don't even know aliens exist, and they're kind of like, oh, that looks like an interesting tour. Think I'll go on that, And so it's going to be a very different world for me, and I just was kind of afraid to charge, but I kind of have to. I don't have a choice.
Oh, if you put that kind of money out, you have to. Dennis and I are into, anything that we can get our teeth into and really do something neat with. And this has been one of those things. So to us, it wasn't important to, we only each bought one pair. So, we're fine there. But if you start buying 4 and 5 pairs, well, it makes sense to charge. And that's what Ed was doing. And, he had at times 8 and 10 pairs, and that makes sense.
Yeah, and you got to recoup your losses at that point. But the ETs are okay with it. I just wanted to let you know. So if you come out and you guys help me, they're all fine with it.
Sure.
And they've also told me something very interesting. And I wasn't going to tell you this on air, but I'm going to, because they said that your story is going to tell, because for 15 minutes before the Skywatch, or maybe even up to a half an hour, I wanted to have myself and Tana and you talk about our experiences and how different they are from each other. And they told me that the three of us, or even just me one night, or Tana the next, or you at one point, or whatever, we're going to be able to get to a lot of people that have never even heard about this phenomena before, and they're actually going to change their mind about it, and they're going to be more open-minded in the future. And that's all we can ask for, but I thought that was pretty extraordinary, There's not going to be a lot of people on these tours. I said, I'm not doing it. I told them I'm not doing it if I have to put up with skepticism all night. I really am not going to do it. And they said, you won't have to worry about that. They will be able to hear the truth in your voice and Chuck's voice and Tana's voice. And I said, okay, well, if that's the case, then I'll do it. It was kind of like one of those, I'm not doing it unless you give me permission, but I'm also not doing it if I'm going to get in a bad time. So, have you ever had people come up to you and say, I just, you're out of your mind, this doesn't exist? What are you doing?
Yes, and there are two ways to handle it. You can tell them, I ask them, have you done any research? And a lot of people have done such a minimum amount that they really don't have anything to say about it. But then I like to educate the people on what exactly they're looking at when they're out with us, so that they understand that these things are flying around 100 to 300, sometimes further than that, out in space. Obviously it's not being talked about on TV. So, you tell me if you think you know what's going on. Please explain it to me, because I seem to know more than you know about it. So why aren't you listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Most people, we were up in, where were we? We were in Lake County. We were up at, I can't remember the name of the city. It wasn't Canoctoy. Lakeport. We were in Lakeport, and we were up in the library there. And there were a couple of people in that room that were not believers, but I think by the end of the day, between you and Douglas and myself, I think that these people actually had a change of heart. I had the husband of a woman up there who is not a big fan of the whole thing. He goes, oh, she drags me to all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he left, he looked at me and he said, this is very, very interesting and very compelling. And I never thought I'd hear that out of him. And so you did a really good job that day. There were a couple of people in the room that were skeptical, but by the time the day was done, in spite of the 104-degree room temperature, or whatever it was. Oh, that was the day we were putting ice packs in our armpits. Oh my gosh, yes. Anyhow, in spite of the heat, people were actually coming away from that with new information and very excited about the future of ufology and the fact that people actually are having these sightings.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very happy with you that day. I mean, I think you did a really amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
Convincing people, because, that's all we can do in the end, is sit there and try to convince people that this stuff's all real,
That's right.
Yeah. So what does your daughter think about all this? She saw that with you. Is she a true believer now?
Oh, absolutely. And
cool.
I wouldn't say that she wasn't a believer before. She kind of sees it as, why would we know everything that's going on? I'm sure there's all kinds of things going on. They're not letting us know about it. So why should I be surprised?
Yeah.
It's funny.
She out of college and married and got kids of her own now?
Not married. Has a great job. Is enjoying life.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, has she ever gone to a UFO conference or anything?
She hasn't. But I was going to tell you. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. I want to hear this.
She had me over for Thanksgiving, and she said, oh, you see those couple people over there? They're kind of into some of the things that you're into. So I went over and I said, hi, I'm Chuck, and started talking. And the one guy said to me, he's there, you mentioned UFOs. Is there anything really to that? And I started laughing, and he looked at me and he said, wow, that's the best response I've ever gotten. Why did you laugh? And I said, because there's so much to it that it's actually funny to me that there are people that don't realize that it's a reality.
Right. Absolutely. I hope he didn't take offense. I'm sure.
Oh, no. No, but he thought it was hilarious. He said that was the best response he's ever gotten. He was just like, wow. But when I was done talking to them, his wife said, "Are you a hugger?" And I said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "A hugger. I'd like to give you a hug and thank you for what you're doing."
Wow. Wow. You know what? That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, that doesn't happen a lot for, many of us. But, what you did is you just changed somebody's whole paradigm in that dinner. That's
right.
So cool.
That's
I
right.
love it. Well, you know what we're going to have to do? I hate to say it, but we've already exhausted our time here for this segment. I can't believe it. So, Chuck, I just, I really adore you and Dennis, and I look forward to working with you guys in 2018. Do you think that 2018 is going to bring about any disclosure or anything, just quickly, do you think anything's going to happen?
I kind of doubt it. I don't think they want us to know, and I think that the kind of disclosure we're going to get is cartoon type stuff.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but I think you're right. Well, that's the way it's going to have to be for just a while longer. I think by 2020 things are going to start really shaking loose. That's what
I hope.
They told me. They said 2020 and beyond is going to be very different than now. Because our country's in upheaval, and there's a lot of other things that are going on that are taking up people's, time and energy.
Mm-hmm.
But once we get that all straightened out, I think things are going to be very, very different. So there we go. Well, happy holidays to you, and thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Oh, thank you, and right back at you.
You bet. And we'll have you on for a full show here in a few months, and it'll be wonderful. So
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Keep sticking around. We're having a great holiday special here tonight on IRN. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the California MUFON Radio Show holiday special, folks. Hey, I've got one of my best friends here with us on the show tonight. I think I have a lot of my best friends here on the show tonight, but I'm really excited to bring Tron on with us, Mr. Plutronus, Tron to me. I hope he is to you guys as well. Tron, how you doing?
Hi, everybody, and Merry Christmas, and thank you, Lorien, for having me on again. And I'm doing great. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm really happy to have you. I'm kind of flummoxed here because I'm trying to make sure we're recording, but we are. I don't record often, and, these holiday specials are always fun for us, and we sit here and we battle the technology, but that's just the way it goes, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So anyhow, what are you going to do for Christmas this year?
Well, it's almost like deja vu, but I got my ham license, and I bought a radio that's broken. I knew it was broken when I bought it. And it's a transceiver. It's a 100-watt ham band, multi-band transceiver, and the guy misrepresented it to me. He said he told me it was broken when I bought it, and it was a $1,000 radio, and I got it for $250 on eBay. And when I opened it up, I could see that one side of it had been sitting in, it has saltwater corrosion. And I should have known better because I bought the radio from a guy in Florida.
There you go.
And they just went through 20 hurricanes down there in standing water. So anyway, that's what I'm doing for Christmas is I'm fixing my radio.
Cool. Sounds like fun.
It is.
The whole ham thing, it intrigues me. And, Art Bell started with ham radio, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And a tape recorder.
And a tape recorder, that's right. And he used to tape the shows, and then he'd rebroadcast them, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, he actually had people call his trailer, and he'd record them. And then he'd go into they had these free 1 hour time slots on the radio stations late night, and then he'd go over as a volunteer and play the tapes back. And it became so popular that Robert Bigelow, the billionaire, got wind of it, and he started funding his show, which then allowed him to. The station started getting advertisers, and basically Robert Bigelow funded the show so that it became coast to coast, and it got so much syndication. And Bigelow was using the show to draw attention from all the ufologists out there, everybody who was having contact experiences would call into the show to get a chance to talk on the show, and Robert Bigelow got access to the information before anybody else did, and he'd send his teams out to study those events.
Really? See, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, that's how it worked.
This is back when it was Dreamland, though.
Dreamland, that's right,
yeah.
Dreamland and Coast to Coast. And then all of a sudden, Art Bell started having all these problems. Well, his son was kidnapped, and then there was, all kinds of weird stuff was going on, and it's right around then is when Art Bell dropped out of radio, and the reason is he was drawing too much attention to the right subjects, in my opinion.
Yeah, very interesting. Speaking of drawing attention to the right subjects, you told me, I don't know if we could talk about it on radio, but you said you've had a Men in Black experience in your life. Can we talk about that, or is that something we shouldn't be talking about here?
Well, in order to talk about it, I have to do a whole lot of background yakking.
Okay, but
it's not
exist, right?
I'm
still
absolutely
trying to wrap my head around what a Men in Black is and if they exist, and how come I've never seen one.
Well, I tell you don't want to see them, first of all. Every time they show up, there's something bad going on. It's bad.
Oh, my God. And now, are they human or are they alien?
I don't know. I think they're alien.
Really? You're about the 10th person that's told me that. Everybody I've asked that's had an encounter said, God, that couldn't have been a human because they were just too bizarre.
They every time there's a Men in Black event happens, there's always something involving some kind of a weird sexual aspect.
Really? Now, how come the other guys don't talk about that?
Maybe it's because they're embarrassed.
Yeah. I was embarrassed about one of my encounters. If it was an encounter, it had to be, because no one tells you to keep their eyes shut for a procedure if they're not going to scare the bejesus out of you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
mouth shut, yours and eyes shut. You don't want to know about what's going to happen. You sure don't want to see it.
I certainly felt it. I can tell you that. But oh my God, that was one of the most painful things I think I've ever had done to me in my astral existence or wherever I was.
Oh yeah, you can hurt in the astral.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go. I want burgers,
pizza,
tacos. It is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Plane too.
Oh, jeez.
It don't matter where they stick it in your orifice. If you're in the whether you're in the astral plane or otherwise, it hurts.
It hurts. It's funny you bring that up, because I have a friend of mine who's an experiencer that's going to be speaking at my conference, and he told me the other day, he goes, I've been having all these encounters all this time, and I don't know if he wants me to tell what happened, but basically they did some probing, and he was like, I always told them, don't probe me, And
yeah. Don't stick it in there.
Yeah, and he finally did it, and he was so furious. He just is like, oh my God. He goes, I can't believe they did it. But anyhow, it's interesting, the Men in Black are supposedly, now this is what Dan Burrish said at one point. I don't know if you believe in anything that Dan Burrish has to say, but he at one point said these weird Men in Black, a lot of them are aliens that have come down and inhabited dead or very sick people that they're animating their bodies. Do you think he was onto something? I don't have a clue. The weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I don't believe. I don't. You can do certain things with physics, and I don't think bringing back dead people is one of them.
Yeah.
The problem is if you have enough science that you can cause flesh to come back and be animated, why not just make it from scratch?
Well, true. And who says they didn't make us from scratch?
Well, why would they make it look like it's dead?
Well, that's true. That's true. Why would you do that? Why would you have to control a body that's yeah? Why not?
Well, if you got enough science, what happens to flesh when it dies? What happens to a body when it dies? The nutrients, the nutrients. Okay, your bloodstream is the nutrient and the waste canal.
Yes.
It's a pipe, right? And it brings oxygen and basically sugar, sucrose. It's the sugar. It brings that to the plant, to the cells. Yeah. Osmosis takes place. It feeds and aspirates the cell right through the walls through osmosis. And the cells do their action, and they move around and fornicate and whatever else the little cells do in there. And then they output their waste products back into the bloodstream. Okay, and then the liver takes all that waste out, and the bladder, and the kidneys separate the fluids, the toxic fluids. So you got your urine is carrying out the toxins out of your bloodstream, right? And the hard waste comes out of the alimentary tract, which starts out at the top of your stomach and goes down through the intestines. And that's really where your body eats, is not in your stomach, but it's in your intestines. The top part is the vitrulae, which are these little hairy things that reach into the food canal, and it's pulling out the food, and it's putting the stuff it doesn't eat falls down through gravity. Down in the lower portion becomes the poo-poo tract, right? The alimentary tract. And it comes out as waste. Okay, so long as these things are working, your body, your flesh and your cells are supple, and they got water and they got fluid, and they're alive. When it dies, all that stops happening. All the waste matter starts staying in the cells, and it starts rotting, just like food in the refrigerator. It starts rotting, and before you know it, starts breaking down, and that's what makes bodies stink so bad. And they stink like there's a special kind of a smell when dead bodies. Human dead bodies are worse than animal dead bodies, but they're in the same category as stink. Okay, to keep the body from stinking and completely rotting, morticians come in and stick a couple of little hoses into your veins, and they pump formaldehyde. Mm-hmm. They flush out the blood, the stagnant blood. They flush that out through all the pipes, the veins and arteries, and they drain the blood out and replace it with formaldehyde. Basically, they're turning you into leather. True. Okay? True. Then they bury you in the ground, and you look like a person, that you used to know, until you touch one. You ever touch a dead guy?
Yes, I have.
Oh man, they feel like cardboard.
Yeah,
it's
weird. Very interesting. They're almost
it's a weird feeling. You want to get a feeling of what it feels like? Take a person that some person and have them touch your hand to their hand. Thumb, finger to finger, like that, and then take your other hand and run it up and down a finger, so that your thumb touches your friend's finger, and your other fingers touch the other side of your own hand. It feels like that. You can see that you're feeling something that you recognize as being human, but it has a cardboard kind of a feeling to it. It's like, ooh, that's a distant kind of, wow, how can you be distant and yet near at the same time? It's that kind of a weird, it's a high strangeness feeling. Anyway, so you got basically a piece of cardboard there, or a piece of leather with eyeballs in it. So, actually, they take the eyes out because they disintegrate anyway. They take out the brains, they take out the heart, the lungs. Okay, so you got a shell sitting there. Okay. Why would an alien come along and reanimate a piece of leather to look like a person? If they got the technology to do that, why not just make the person from scratch?
I know, but maybe there's some, I don't know. Like I said, do you want to believe Dan Burge? I don't know. The thing is, though, if the brains are still intact and it's a freshly dead body, not an old
brains are not intact. That's the first things that die on a human being. In fact, that's why you do die. People die because the brain dies. That's when you bleed out. It isn't because the heart and lungs aren't got any blood. It's because the brain doesn't have any nutrition. When your brain dies, it's when the body dies. Just that simple. Everybody dies the same way, unless you get shot in the head and all your brains get splattered out. But like Kennedy. Yeah. But everybody sparkles out. That's how you die. It's like having a foot go to sleep, and you get those little sparkly feelings in your feet. Well, instead, it's in your vision field, and you actually see it. And you actually see the little sparkles, and you sparkle out. How I know this is because I have a very bad case of arrhythmia. And what happens is, periodically, I take medication for this, by the way. once in a while, my heart will stop beating long enough that I start to sparkle. And actually, I see it as a kind of a numbness forms on my lips, my tongue, and my fingertips. Everything starts getting kind of a numbness, a tingling sensation, and then I actually see little sparkles. And
Really?
and then you pass out. And then you pass out. That is
Oh,
exactly
no.
how everybody dies. Okay,
That's
it's not
so
unpleasant.
bizarre.
It's scary because if you know what's coming, you know, oh shit, I'm dying, you know. What the hell's going to happen next? According to my Kabbalah
God.
teacher, we're just as conscious in this life form as we are when we're asleep.
Wow. See,
Because
this is very interesting.
It's
Very, very
just yet zero. It's the
Yeah. See, I was just going to say that's taking you straight into the next realm, and
which is the astral plane.
exactly.
And if you're
Exactly.
awake in the astral plane, when you die, you lose your remember, your consciousness is not you. It's not your brain. The brain is a computer. It's a fabric that allows consciousness to express itself.
True. Absolutely. Yep.
If you got a computer that's smart, if you got a computer with enough switches, enough diodes, enough switches, eventually it'll become conscious. Because
That's so
God's
interesting.
consciousness is everywhere, and we get our consciousness from God. God is the source of everything that's alive. It is the source. It's just the source. And if you have the right conditions, the right fabrics, consciousness will take hold and exhibit itself in that place. So if you've got a world that's got enough silicon laying around on the beaches, and you have enough water in the right combinations, enough germanium and geranium and the impurities, where you could literally have a beach full of rusting silicon, and with a flashlight, you could actually have consciousness form in crystals on a beach, and it could literally become a silicon-based intelligence, switching-based intelligence that evolved entirely on its own and be a totally alien consciousness that could continue to evolve until it became mobile. And the only reason why we became mobile is because we could get better food sources, according to what everybody says about evolution. We evolved.
Wait. Do you believe that? Because I thought
Absolutely.
you were of the mind that the aliens messed with us. And got
Oh,
us
yeah,
where we're
sure.
at.
We absolutely. Inky told me that he made humans in the Garden of Eden,
Really?
and he's still alive. He's a dragon.
Still- Yeah. Well, and you're not the only one that says that, by the way. I've got 3 other guests that absolutely have met him and say he's exactly what you say he is. So-
I'm just telling what he told me, and
Yep.
it was before I knew anything about astrology or tarot cards. He told me he programmed into early humans. He said first of all, he said that he belonged to a secret order in Sirius B. He says that's the place where the good dragons come from. Is they come from Sirius B, the good reptilians. There's good and bad reptilians. Just sort of like Russians and Americans, or maybe Americans and Israelis. They're the good and the bad. Okay, and so, or bad Americans too. There's bad in everything, but there's a tendency to have specific predispositions in races, and it may not necessarily be bad. It just may be so different that they don't get along. Okay, and that's what makes them bad.
And I'm going to throw one other little mix in here. It's usually religion-based. It's
usually it's
belief
religion-based.
system-based. Yeah, okay. So go
You
ahead.
betcha. Anyway, so the good guy reptilians dragons come from Sirius B, and he is a member of a secret organization, a secret spiritual group in Sirius B, and wherever they go and create colonies, and they do it all the time. They fly around a spacecraft, and they're always looking for resources for their home world or for their interests. And when they find a place, they, instead of themselves working the mines and all this stuff, they take the most intelligent life form on the planet and they cross their DNA, the reptilian DNA, with those life forms, and they create literally a subspecies of reptilians that become literally slaves for them, and they work the mines. They work. They do the labor. And that's what they did to us. Only the difference is in most of the worlds of the universe, of the galaxy, it's reptilian life that forms. But because we had an asteroid that hit Earth 73 million years ago, it wiped out the reptilian life form, the food chain, the reptilian food chain. The most intelligent life form on the planet were mammals and not reptilians. So they had this big problem. And this, by the way, is supported in Sanskrit in the Upanishad, the Rig Veda.
That's true.
And it basically said that they had all this trouble trying to make Hansur, I forget her name, Inky's sister, had trouble trying to make humans and kept failing. And he came along and he crossed the DNA. He showed me the process. I actually saw him do it. It was like watching a movie. I watched him literally take a needle and stick it into the butt of a red-faced baboon. I could see the animal very clear. He pulled out blood, something that looked just like a syringe, and he unwrapped the RNA by 12%, the ribonucleic acid, and then he went over to something that looked like a centrifuge with a whole bunch of test tubes, selected one, put the two test tubes into this machine, punched some buttons, and a half hour later, he took the output bottle, stuck the syringe in it, and squirted it into the butt of the baboon. And in 32 days, it reverted from being a quadruped to a biped. It was all the fur had fallen off of it. It had these little square, reddish, like squares. They're tiles. They look like tiles, but they're little tiles. Not like something like looking at an alligator. Only their tiles are really kind of coarse and rugged and big and thick and chunky. These are like like what you see on the bottom of a snake, on the smooth side of the snake, and it was shiny like that. But the skin was the hide was a shiny, almost bright red in color. The whole body was colored like that. Had these little short, almost looked like horns on the top of the head, but they're little bumps. The eyes were goat slit, blood red. The eyes were originally blood red, but they were orange aqueous humor. The slit was blood. It was blood red aqueous humor with an reddish orange vertical slit. Had 3 finger thumb, and it had a short tail, and it looked just like early drawings of, the devil.
Right.
Looked like early drawings of the devil, man.
So this is our ancestor.
Our ancestors. They were called Hermanubis. They were called Hermanubis. Then if you look on key 10 of the tarot deck, you'll see one, and it's a drawing of a Hermanubis. And they called it Hermanubis. In Egyptology, it's called a humanubis. But it was a prototype human, what was called a prototype human in the Egyptian Book of the Dead discussions. Anyway, that's what we were made as. And originally, baboons, you see, have 4 fingers and a thumb, and the Hermanubis had 3 fingers and a thumb. And if you look at the ring finger and the inner finger, in all of the early drawings of the tarot and early human drawings from the Hebrew traditions, the 2 inner fingers are drawn as a fat finger in the middle. And at some point, what happens after what they call the fall, those 2 fingers separated. We sloughed off our reptilian hide and became what was called in the Bible as being naked. And what happened is we no longer molted. When we sloughed off, just like snakes and reptilians regularly molt, and they get rid of their old hide because they're cold blooded. The mammalian DNA became more dominant. And we went through what they call the fall, and that was we no longer molted, and our reptilian hides sloughed off, and our 2 inner fingers became separated. We had 4 fingers and a thumb again, because that's our mammalian ancestor had it, whereas the reptilians have 3 fingers and a thumb, and we became bipedal. We were always bipedal, but we became less reptilian-like in our behaviors and became more and more mammalian. And somewhere around that time period is when when the dragons went someplace. They're still around, but as best as I can tell, they using technology, they went up into another dimension. It's not yet zero. If it's in yet zero, it's a higher dimension form of yet zero. Because
no, it's not. You know why? Because all the UFO contactees that I've talked to that understand the dimensional time space they created a construct around this planet that what they called the slots. And this is what I heard from my guy that supposedly was helping Nixon with the UFO problem. He says, Lorien, you don't understand. They created a whole nother dimensional time space around this planet or next to the planet, or I don't know where it is in relationship to us, but it's where they take us. It's where they hide. It's not anywhere near God. I can tell you that. It's not near death. It's a whole construct.
I understand. It's got nothing to do with dying or death. It's another place.
Exactly, but it's related to us. It is where it's like them being in our upper atmosphere at all times.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I did that, I did that one lecture at your conference where I showed the craft plowing the fields. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yep, that's exactly it. And what it is they can hide there, and we can drive right through it with a spacecraft. And
That's right. But because they're in a different dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're just as physical in their dimension as we are in ours. Only the way Anna Hayes in her book Voyager described it.
Right.
She said that there are 3 prakritis per dimension. And by changing the phase relationship of those prakritis, they are able to move between our dimensions. They can pass directly through our walls, like when they want to abduct us and pull us out.
That's right.
They just pass a beam down, change the phase relationships of the spins of the electrons in our dimension.
Yep.
The phase coherence, and they just reach down and grab somebody, and they just pull them, and they change their They bring their coherence, their phase relationships into their dimensional construct, and then they just pull us right up through the ceilings of our houses.
That's right.
And everyone says, "Oh, it's magic," and it can't be true. And the science, "Oh, it's all bullshit," And what it is, it's just advanced science. It's all it is. It's not magic. It's not voodoo. But it certainly is reptilian.
Well, you're not going to believe this, but our time is almost over. We got like 10 seconds left. Every time I talk to you for 25 minutes, it goes by like in a blink, literally a blink of an eye.
I have to tell you, Lorien, I really enjoyed chatting with you this time, but I want to say something. Everything I just told you guys, I absolutely believe with all my heart.
Oh, I do too. Because trust me, you guys, Plutronus is the real deal, and I've had enough corroboration to know that everything you said to us tonight on the show is absolutely real.
Real, at least in the sense that others have seen the similar things.
Exactly. And
we still have to be skeptical a little bit.
Yeah, you got to use your brain and stay on this planet in some way, shape, or form. So, anyhow, okay, sweetheart, thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you. And
Merry Christmas to you.
Because Christmas is already past when this is airing.
I just want to say, God bless each and every one of you. May you all have a Merry Christ Mass, and I wish you and your families to be safe, well, and happy. And let all beings be free. And please, please, please pray for our misguided country and help them get back into the light. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Thank you, Lorien.
Absolutely. Thank you, sweetheart. Have a great one. Okay, folks, stick around. Somebody's coming up next. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show Holiday Special. My third guest this evening is Melinda Lesley. I'm so happy that she's with me here today. How are you doing, Melinda? How's your holidays going?
Oh, doing so good. They're going great. I'm excited because I'm actually about to travel to Denver to be with some of my family, my sister and brother-in-law, and their grown kids. They're all in their 30s, and it'll be really exciting. Well, maybe they have one in their 20s, but the rest are in their 30s, and so it'll be really exciting. And some of them now have kids, and so I'm really looking forward to that. And and it'll be great. I this year I lost a significant friend that you knew as well. Actually, I've lost about 4 significant friends this year, but mainly the one living near me. I didn't want to be all depressed or anything, so I'm really glad that I'm going to be with family and have a really great, fun Christmas. My brother-in-law Mike has this giant family, and they do all these big events on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So there's multiple parties to attend, and and so that's it's really fun. It's really traditional, and it's awesome, and it'll keep me enjoying the holidays and not at risk of being depressed about anything.
Yeah. When you lose people, it's really tough. And the fact that I knew your friend, I don't know if we can say her name, but the fact
Scotty,
that
we can say that.
Yeah,
my friend Scotty Littlestar.
Yeah, and I knew her just a little bit. I met her a couple of times. We've gone out to dinner together and things like that. And we actually spent a conference together, the 4 of us. There was Nancy was with us, and Scotty, and you and I, and we just had a great time. And I'll never forget when we sat. We should tell the audience what we've been up to. She used to go out with you to Las Vegas and do a little bit of gambling. And since she's passed on, I've become your new gambling partner.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with UFOs and aliens, but you guys, it's so interesting. I swear to God, I was sitting at the table, and I could just feel Scotty standing right there with us, telling us what to do, and
exactly,
laughing at us.
Yeah. No, she was right there with us for sure. As a medium, I talk to dead people a lot, and I'm in quite a bit of contact with her as well. Some of the other people that have recently passed and everything, but no, they're and over the holidays they're definitely with us, and so it was it's really fun when we go do that, and I'm so glad she took this online course to play baccarat or baccarat as it's pronounced, and she spent a lot of money to take this online course and then taught me so she'd have someone to go with. And then when she passed, I'm like, well, I know how to do this. I need someone who can go gamble with me, And I'm not a big gambler. I mean, I never ever was my whole life. I'm not even a slot player or anything. But when she taught me that to go play with her, it's really fun. And, what can I say, Lorien? We'll just let everyone in on the fact that we do really good.
Yeah, we do. It's pretty amazing. God, you guys, it's pretty amazing. I never thought I'd be sitting here on a UFO show saying, learn how to gamble.
Yeah.
Learn how to do it right, See, that's the
trick, she paid thousands of dollars for a course.
Yeah.
And it was to learn these progressions that they had spent millions of dollars and computer time to come up with what were the progressions that most likely won. So it's totally legal. There's no, you're not doing anything cheating or whatever, but it's the progressions that if you play them consistently, they win more often. And what can I say, man? It works.
It does work. I'm just absolutely shocked,
and it was something paid for and developed by Kevin Trudeau, who you and I are such friends, fond of, even though he's currently in.
Told me it was a Kevin Trudeau type of program. I was like all over it. I was like, are you kidding? I love that man. People don't know this about me. I followed him religiously. I listened to every radio show live during the afternoon while I was working. And when he got thrown in jail, I was depressed for a month. I swear I was. Because I felt like a guy that was really out there. I mean, he isn't, he's another typical kind of egomaniac out there in the business, I gotta say. But he had the right idea about stuff. He knew our government was after us. He knew what was going on. A great conspiracy guy. I mean, on top of it
absolutely.
All.
And really good at teaching people about the law of attraction and how to create the life of your dreams. And my listening to information from him on that changed my life in a really positive way. To now, I have this extremely successful business, and, can I toot my own horn for just a minute?
Yeah, please do.
I got all excited today. Something caused me, I hadn't looked at my reviews on TripAdvisor and Yelp for a while for my UFO sighting tours. And probably most of your listeners know this. I have UFO sighting tours. In March, I will have done it 7 years. I'm now at, well, last night was tour number 841. So, unfortunately, I've had a little bit of some weather stuff lately. And between Thanksgiving and Christmas does slow down for me with tourism here in Sedona. And so, and that combined with some cloudy skies. So, but I have completed 841 UFO tours, and only once did my clients feel they didn't have a sighting. So the 840 tours, my clients always thought they had sightings. I had a client recently say, "Oh, you're going to be over 1,000 soon," and I tell you, my head spun around. I'm like, what, but that's true. By this time, well, let me see. Shortly after the first of the year, I will have passed 900. And by this time next year, I'm going to be saying I've done 1,000 tours. I'll probably be over 1,000. And that just makes my head just spin. I'm just I can't believe it.
Sweetie, if they had a Hall of Fame for ufology, you would win that category, just like the hockey players, I
appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that. But you and you and I have talked about this. I lament sometimes that I feel I'm not, and it's okay, because I don't want it to be an ego thing. I want to just do good work. I want to present people with sightings, and I want to do my abduction work, and I want to help abductees, and I want to do the MyLab work and get that information out there and inform people. But I tell you, it's like, feeling not recognized in ufology. I mean, yes, I am to some degree, but I'm not one of those speakers asked to do every conference and asked to do every TV show and asked to do not even close. And sometimes Melinda, I feel like no one knows what I'm out here doing, but that's just silly and that's ridiculous, and what?
Listen to me. I want to tell you something. It's a badge of honor in this community not to be one of those speakers. I'm telling you, because that really means you're doing the right work. There are too many of them out there that are not doing anything for anybody except for themselves, and that's
true.
You know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, my God, I cannot handle it, and I'm really, that is my big bandwagon. That is my mission these days, is to expose all the people in ufology that really aren't doing anything to advance it. You're one of the most thorough, most amazing researchers I've ever met in my entire life.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
I seriously, Melinda, the day I met you, I said to you, I'm going to get you out there and speaking at all my conferences, and hopefully somebody.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you've done that. You more than anybody have, as far as for my lectures and getting my research out there, provided me a platform, and I really, I so appreciate it, you guys.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go. I want burgers!
Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
I want all your listeners to know, Lorien puts on all these amazing conferences. UFO conferences, her JFK conferences, her mind control conferences. We've had an amazing experience doing a TV show together that our shows have yet to air, but they will. We've got, I think, 14 or 16 in the can.
This week I'm finishing up the credits, and I think we're launching January 1st. Soon as
that would be so awesome, you guys. We worked really hard.
I'm totally guilty.
And we've had amazing guests. We've had amazing guests, and I want to give our guests credit. And and even though some of them were taped a year ago, their information they're going to provide is absolutely still current and fantastic. Yeah. No one will know, and I shouldn't say we taped them a year ago, because no one will know watching these programs that they were done back then, at all, except for, those of you who have followed the fact that we're even doing this. But otherwise, people won't know. They're timeless, and they're so good, our guests, and they're all recognized, well-known people in the field. And some of them we got into, another side of them that may be, like an aspect of them that they don't talk about or that isn't known. And so you're going to see a different side, even though they're familiar people. You're going to hear something from them you've not heard before, and they were really great. And I'm so excited that those are going to start airing. We've always wanted them to, but there's been a variety of reasons on the production end, and our producer and his companies and stuff. So finally it's going to come out. And
the bottom line to all this is it costs money, folks, to put all this stuff together.
Oh, amen.
So,
yeah,
it's just one of those things that every time we turned around, it's another 500, it's another 400, it's another 300, and it's just the way it is. And we need people to know this, Melinda. We have paid our own way to the studio.
Yeah, amen. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I want people to know when they start seeing these, and we've got, is it 14 or 16 in the can?
We
shows?
have 14, but
14,
16,
okay.
But I think only 14 are going to air. And
okay.
There's a couple reasons why 2 of them may not air. But
sure.
You know what we are going to air that people are going to be surprised about is I have insisted that Sean David Morton be aired. I think it's very important.
And I'm okay with that because he did a really good show with us. I know out there people are going to go, what? Oh my God! Folks, he is in jail. Yes, and he very likely defrauded the government over some money. But aside from that, his research still stands, and I don't want people disparaging his contribution in the past, personality aside, ego aside, and maybe his financial dealings aside. Okay, I'm not going to, I'd agree with people. There's problems there, sure, but as a researcher, and when he was good, he was good. And at times, and I think it's a tribute to the fact that he contributed to this community for years. And I think, we've agreed, everyone in the production end of the show has agreed, as long as we have like a disclaimer in the beginning and the end, so people understand where we're coming from. But to say this shows his contribution as research. And I think we're all willing to stand up. And if we catch flack for it, but I think if anyone watches the show, it's going to be a tribute to the Sean that we can still appreciate.
Oh, absolutely, because he was on his best behavior with us that day.
Oh, yeah.
And we got into areas that he hadn't talked about for quite some time and told us some details about some research he'd done.
Some great personal stories. And
It's great. Yeah,
absolutely. So, it's good, and it's an interview I stand behind, and I'm proud of. Yeah, okay, so we acknowledge the controversy in a disclaimer, but the interview, I think when people watch it, they're gonna have an appreciation for at least that part of him, which is great.
Absolutely.
And
I don't know if I ever told you this, but he came up and did my time travel conference, and I swear to God, Melinda, he knocked it out of the park. It was one of the best presentations he's ever made on time travel. And do you remember in 2014 at the Gold Coast when we did the last Mind Control Summit, that recording he made for us about Ghost Walker? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's great stuff.
That's an amazing interview. It's almost an hour of pure Sean, and the story that happened with that super soldier from Area 51. I mean, that is the most wild story out there, and very few people know about it. So, I think I'm going to throw that interview out there as a fundraiser for the next Mind Control Summit, because people need to know these things.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Because
Melinda,
there's stuff that was. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, my next question for you, dear, is where do you think ufology is going right now? I mean, what's your summation of it up to the end of 2017?
Well,
where do you think we're going in 2018?
We're ending on a bang, and I'll tell you why. And unless your researchers heard the program I just did a couple of weeks ago with you, that it's ending on a bang in an interesting way. That ufology is all of a sudden kind of perked up because of now. Granted, controversial. Granted. maybe not that productive, but this whole To the Stars Academy / Rockstar DeLong / little bits and pieces of disclosure, the Nimitz, footage that, and so right now there's some interesting things, just like I said, the end of the year on a bang with all of a sudden a couple of weeks of flurry. And it's going to be interesting to see where this goes after the first of the year, because the media jumped on this. I think ufology could care less, really, in a sense. Mainstream ufology probably went, it's not really disclosure, really. But all of a sudden, there's a rush in the last couple of days or week of media activity regarding this. And it's, you guys, is it big, giant disclosure with a capital D? No. But when you have, Henry Reed asked them to investigate. I forget what else, I admit I need to read up on it more. It's just in the last couple of days, all of a sudden, on the internet, it's gone crazy. And I'm like, well, I think I've got my work cut out for me as I get on the plane for these flights, is to do some, if I can have my phone active, is to read up on some of this stuff and maybe have an earpiece and listen to some stuff.
Right. Did you see the announcement yesterday that they released that video from the jet fighter?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Is that the Nimitz video? I didn't know it was.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And it's just exciting. I mean, I look at it and I go, we see stuff that's good.
I was totally disappointed with it, because you and I have seen
But the thing is, again, it's not about ufology, you guys. Sometimes we have to step back and go, what is this to mainstream? And it's a little blip on the radar, but it is putting it out there in the mainstream. I mean, the New York Times did a significant article, and then when you read it on their website and everything, there's a link and you can actually watch this video. And then the Washington Post did an article. And the Huffington Post does stuff, but we've had they've been in our camp for a long time now. But to have the New York Times, the Washington Post, like, you guys don't underestimate. Now, no one reads the media anymore, and that's a problem, because John Q. Public is, unless it's on Fox News every night, they're not going to get it. But the thing is, it is being picked up now on the news and whatnot. And I've had a few clients for my tour comment on it,
Really?
So it's like, you guys, this is getting out there. It's a small blip, but that's why I said it'll be interesting to see where after the first of the year this goes. If it builds and there's a momentum, if it creates more stories, if New York Times and Washington Post do follow-ups, we'll see. If it makes television, we'll see, but that's why we're saying we're ending on a little bit of a high note in ufology as far as for the year. And I'm very, very pleased that I'm sharing some research now with Grant Cameron. Now, Grant Cameron, who's a friend of yours and mine, he's high on ufology radar right now. He's being asked to do every radio program, every conference, and it's because he's the one person who's bothered to follow this story and look at it on the inside and do background research on who these guys are with the To the Stars Academy, and its specific links to what has been previously known in ufology as the Aviary or the Working Group, which myself and fellow research associate Randy Kopang and I have been doing deep research for 28 years. So Randy and I put our heads together and said, look, Grant's onto this. We need to share our stuff with him. And at the Star Wars conference with Paola Harris, Grant and I had many, many meetings, of which you were present for most of them, and conversations where we were able to join our research together. And I was able to say, look, you've got the last 5 years nailed down, but I've got a previous, 28-year or 25-year, let's say 25's previous to that of information about our research into this group and their connection. And so I'm so thrilled to be working with Grant and sharing information with him. And so that's, and because of his current, what's going on in ufology right now, well, this whole story and this whole story kind of the researcher that everyone's their go-to guy on it right now is Grant Cameron. So I think we're going to do much more activity. I look forward to the beginning of next year, and the fact that once we get through the holidays, I think him and I are going to be working closely a lot more. We're going to be both speaking on this subject together
absolutely.
and separately for you at UFOCon this year.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting at UFOCon this year, because by the time it happens at the end of March, a lot of this is going to play out. And you might even be doing just a historical review of everything that's happened in the last year with DeLong and the Aviary and the working group, and all the way up to like March of 2018. And who knows what they might have accomplished by then in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, he could do a full 2-hour presentation just up to the minute with what's going on now through the end of the year, let alone, like you said, what's going to happen between now and March. And then I'm going to give a background presentation on the history of the Aviary, the history of the working group, their involvement in you guys. This isn't like a new thing these guys are doing. No. About every couple of years, they surface with some big new a piece of involvement in ufology, and they have a pattern of this. So this is just the current phase of their pattern, and it all gets back to, as I said earlier, not disclosure with a capital D, but disclosure with a little d, or what ufology will call soft disclosure. That this is this the big end game? No, but it's pushing that ball further down the field towards disclosure being possible. And is it going to happen next year? No. Could it happen in 10 or 20 years? You guys, I don't know. A couple of years ago, I would say, it's 20 years away, But now I'm going, well, wait a second. This is pushing that ball further down the field. And we'll see what happens. Could it mean nothing and it will fizzle out? Yeah, highly likely, Or it could be that this is the start of something, and that these guys are going for media attention, and it starts to change the tide of public opinion, and again, everyone who follows the whole disclosure subject realizes it's been on like we call it the 40-year plan, 40 or 50-year plan to do this. But all of a sudden there seems to be a few things pushing that ball down the field. Or if you think of like a disclosure time clock, if we were 5 minutes before midnight, now we're 3 minutes before midnight, so all of a sudden something has changed. And when you start to get major media publications writing more serious articles, now I read the Times, I didn't read it in great detail, but I did go through it quickly, and I need to spend some time and really pour over it. But I think it's just kind of softballing it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're not, it's not ridicule, it's softball, but it's not ridicule. You guys, that's a change. And that's a change in the opinion of the media, and it's about time. I'm out there on these tours showing people sightings every night. Like I said, I kind of pat myself on the back or toot my own horn is I looked on TripAdvisor, and when you go under Center for the New Age, so I'm on TripAdvisor because I do my tours through the Center for New Age. So I don't have a separate listing. I'm on there with them. But if you go Center for the New Age, and then in their little search engine, you put in UFO. In the little, go TripAdvisor, Center for New Age, UFO in their search engine. So it brings up just all the reviews that mention UFO. I have 53 5-star reviews on TripAdvisor.
Oh my God, Melinda, congratulations.
Yeah. And so, and you guys, I earned every one, clients, and I work hard on my tours, but, I never dreamt in a million years we'd have as many sightings as we do. But the reason I kind of dovetailed into bringing this up again was just to say,
Melinda,
I'm out there showing people sightings.
Melinda, we've only got 30 seconds left in the show.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Do me a favor, wrap it up, sweetie.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, having sightings every night. So my clients go out there and they've had disclosure. They're like, oh my God, this is real, Yeah. And but I still want, because they tell me they have friends, they have family members, close family and siblings, whatnot, kids, and also coworkers and stuff, who they're even afraid to mention that they went out on a UFO tour,
Right,
And so when those people who have had sightings feel like they're vindicated and they can talk about it now. And when all the whistleblowers, I mean, you start to get massive media attention, and those people are going to be, those massive media sources are going to be looking for credible witnesses. They're going to go for the whistleblowers, you know, and so I think ufology is poised to really do some interesting things in the year to come.
I agree with you on that one. Well, happy holidays, my friend, and I will talk to you very soon. And thank you for being on the holiday special this year. It was great fun, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Okay, thank you, Lorien.
Okay,
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Well, folks, we'll be back in just a few minutes with our next guest, so stick around. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show Holiday Special. My final guest of the night is Grant Cameron. I am so happy you guys are all with me here on this holiday night. And I hope you had a great Christmas, because, you know, this is being played a couple days after Christmas. We're going into the New Year's. And this is why my next guest is really going to be blowing you guys away, because UFO Con's coming up. And we've got some amazing history of the Black Ops, of the whole government, you know, ball of wax that's been going on to cover up for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Right, Grant?
Right, you got it.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. I just hope you guys can all make it to UFO Con. Now, Grant and I were just talking about how, as of the recording of this show, that, you know, things are unfolding really fast with the whole Tom DeLonge thing and the working group in the aviary and all the guys behind everything all these years. And the latest development as of today, I think, is the fact that Bigelow has been involved quite a bit. Is that correct? And a couple of senators, is that right?
Bigelow,
Reed and people like that?
Bigelow is at the core of the story. If you don't understand Bigelow, you've missed the story, because that is the story. It's not Tom DeLonge, it's Bob Bigelow.
Well, you know what, Grant? You're not going to believe this. I knew this 5 years ago. And I've been sitting on it because I have people that have worked with Bigelow that have told me, you know, basically, you have no idea what's going on, Lorien, and I can't tell you. And when they say that to me about Bob Bigelow, that speaks volumes. You know, I knew that he was behind everything, and I kept telling people that for like 4 or 5 years ago. I would say, you know, you guys really ought to be checking into Bigelow. I think he's bigger fish in this pond than people think. I think he hides under the rocks, and he's probably a sturgeon.
He is the guy who pulled off the biggest coup in history. He's the guy who talked to Senator Reed, who was the head of the majority leader of the Democratic Senate. Reed was into UFOs. Reed went to Bigelow. They come up with this sort of idea to get some money. Then Reed went to Ted Stevens, who had a UFO sighting in the Army Air Force during World War II, and Stevens was on board. Then they went to John Glenn. John Glenn was on board, and then they went to Inouye, who made the famous speech about the secret government and the secret Air Force and all that sort of stuff.
Isn't he the Hawaiian representative?
Yeah, and he's dead.
Okay.
And I think Stevens is also dead, or no, Glenn is dead.
These
4 guys went and they got this money put out, and $22 million was spent, and Bob Bigelow was the contractor, because that's how it works in the government, is if you want to keep it away from the people, you put it in a private contractor, then you don't have the FOIA problems. And so Bigelow was in charge. It started in 2007, and George Knapp has now confirmed that he knew about it in 2007 as it started. And so for 10 years, and this is where it comes down, you start putting all the pieces together. Bob Bigelow goes to MUFON, and people sign, and even Alejandro Rojas talked about this on the Coast to Coast the other night, and said that all the MUFON people, when Bigelow offered all the money, Bigelow stated quite clearly it was not his money. And people were, in order to be a part of this, had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and Alejandro did not sign it. And the people apparently that signed it knew that this was the deal. The money was coming from the Black Ops. And so he got that. He bought up, I know he bought up John Carpenter, the Abduction files.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
And he picked up Von Kavitsky. He was a famous major for the for the United Nations. He was I knew he had bought up his files. He went after the Canadian files, and then Tom DeLonge approaches the Free Organization, and I just confirmed with Ray just this morning that they didn't try to buy the Free files, but they said that they could possibly pay for Free's people their salaries. And Ray said, nothing's for sale. We're not going to talk, and basically hung up the phone on Tom DeLonge. So it's basically
God. I got to tell you, I love Ray Hernandez. He's my hero. I swear to God. Okay.
Yeah. So this is sort of going around this conversation between you and Ray. It's all over a lot of people are copying it, the email. So we talked about this, but basically, so he's basically was the guy at the center of this thing, and it's the old business thing. It's OPM, other people's money. So none of this money was Bigelow's money. It was all money that he got from the government, $22 million, and Bob Bigelow now controls the entire UFO story, and he's pulled it off. And
Grant, this is just like it's playing right down my alley. I never said much about it because I was concerned for the people that I know that worked for him because, I didn't want to say anything because I just didn't want to get anybody in trouble. But the way they talked about him, I had such a deep-seated feeling that he was behind pulling the strings. But, I can't ever prove it. And this is amazing that this has all come out.
Yeah. And so now it's been confirmed by the New York Times, and the people are still missing the whole story. The New York Times has confirmed that he has a place, an underground facility in Las Vegas where he keeps the hardware. And there is hardware, and they are going to release this hardware. Tom DeLonge was talking about a 1948 crash and a piece of material. It sounds like they're going to show, which has... I heard 80 layers, but don't quote me on that. That this is layered material like if you remember back the arts parts that Linda Howe people were working on many years ago. And he has you've heard, if you read the New York Times story and the Washington Post story, you'll see the reference to a 490-page report. Well, George Knapp has now gone public and said there's not one report, there's 38 reports. And a lot of them are over 100 pages. So all this material is now controlled by him, all the reports, all the hardware, and all the video. And I keep telling people, even today, people are saying, now it's the story has moved away from Tom DeLonge. It's no longer the Tom DeLonge story. Even Tom was very upset a couple days ago that, it's another day delay, and he's all upset because people are harassing him because he's not producing the story. And he didn't have any control of the story. He was just sitting on the sidelines like the rest of us, waiting for this New York Times story. And because they coordinated this thing. It was not just the New York Times. It was the Politico and it was Washington Post. So all three agencies did separate stories the same day. And it was all coordinated that this would happen. And, of course, it has gone viral. And now Donald Trump has been asked. So the press secretary said, I haven't talked to the president about this, but I'm going to talk to him and I'll get back to you. So that's where we stand with that. But the whole thing has basically gone viral. Bigelow basically controls the whole story. It's all in Las Vegas. And I remember there's an interview. I've asked for the interview. I should have it later in the afternoon. 2013 interview he does with George Knapp, where he talks about acclimatization. There's an acclimatization program going on. And George was in on this whole thing. George said he didn't see a lot of the material, but he knew this was going on. But George talked in 2013, Bob Bigelow talked about 2013, an acclimatization program, and he said, if the business puts in money, then it's proprietary information. So now you have a situation where Bigelow controls the information, and he really doesn't have to release it because he owns the material. He owns whatever they've got. And it was all handed over by this Elizondo guy from the Department of Defense. And so now people are making Elizondo as this great hero. He went to the New York Times. I have my White House UFO YouTube channel. I actually play the White House or the reporter from the New York Times who talks about the interview she does with him, how they're sort of hidden in this hotel. And so now they're playing him as the great hero, that this is the guy that he got frustrated with the government and he quit because they weren't taking it seriously enough. And it's like, come on. I mean, I keep posting this thing about puppets. Like, come on, wake up, folks. I mean, the guy's a puppet.
Oh my God. And Grant, this is insanity. And you know what? By the time our conference comes around in March, hopefully we'll be able to clarify this for everybody. Because see, here's the problem: they're all believing this stuff. They're thinking Tom DeLonge's the hero. They think this Alessandro guy is the hero. They think all of this is great. That we'll probably have disclosure within the week, and all this. But it's not going to change anything. See, that's the thing. It's not going to be the big disclosure. My biggest problem with everything that's happened so far is how come there isn't a 24/7 news cycle running like the OJ trial for weeks at a time with you and Stanton Friedman and Stephen Greer and I'm a no fish in this game, but Bassett should be on 24/7 on Fox News. I mean, it's like, where are all the real people? Where are all the real players that have been in it for 50 years? They're not even being trotted out. It's these people from the CIA that are being trotted out and playing us again.
Yeah,
nobody's seeing it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. People are missing the thing. It's like, when Elizondo leaves, and this guy saved his life. He writes supposedly a letter to Secretary Mattis at Defense, and Mattis saved his life in Afghanistan. So they're very close friends. And he writes this thing that says, I'm frustrated and I'm quitting or whatever. And the next day he joins Tom DeLonge's operation. And Tom confirmed that he was actually talking to him before he resigned quite a bit. And then suddenly he has all these top secret UFO films that he's releasing. And I say, like, what is that what he got on his going away present? He got all the top secret UFO films as he quits the Defense Department. I mean, this is they're leaking this stuff out the same as they're going to with Steve Justice from Lockheed. He's coming out and he's going to bring all this material and these plans for this sort of an experiment and sort of an anti-gravity experiment or whatever they're going to show. And that's coming out of Lockheed Skunk Works. That's top secret material too. So this is how they're putting this stuff through. But it has gone extremely viral. The guy that wrote the New York Times story stated this is the biggest story that the New York Times has done for many years. This is absolutely a huge story, and you can see they're all on the bandwagon now, and they've now asked a question in the White House press room. The reporters realize they've been had, and it has gone viral. This story is literally almost 24/7. I mean, I really don't have any time to do anything. I've got all sorts of requests for interviews, and I'm trying to do these updates, and it's incredible what's going on.
Well, now, do you think this is really hitting mainstream media head on? Because I'm not feeling it.
Oh, absolutely. All you got to do is CNN had Elizondo. CNN's story today is the top trending story on the internet.
Really? Oh,
yep.
Okay. So then I've been missing it. I flipped on the stations yesterday, and I never watched them. And I went through 20 minutes of, I think a stock report. I don't think I got anything on the UFO.
Well, you're on the Money Channel. You got to go to my Facebook site. Most of the stuff I'm posting on my Facebook site.
Oh, okay.
On my White House UFO YouTube channel, I've done two 30-minute updates since Saturday. I did one on Saturday and I did one yesterday. I'm doing another one tomorrow and another one Thursday. And this is just to update the things that have happened since Saturday. And they're like 30 minutes long, these updates as to this happened. Like today, I have to add the thing about Donald Trump being asked. And the New York Times has put out a second article. The guy who wrote it, this Ralph Blumenthal, has put out a second article. And from what I've been told by somebody who's in contact, he has a whole series of articles coming out. And he also has a book coming out on John Mack.
Really? Cool.
Yeah.
I love it. John's amazing.
So these are major reports. This is the New York Times, Washington.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go. I want burgers!
Pizza. Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Post and Politico all coordinated their stories the same day. And Fortune magazine ran a story today. It's got some new details in it. Basically, every major news media, even the Chinese, picked it up. The Chinese Daily News reran the Washington Post story.
Wow. Okay. So now here's the $1 million question. What difference is it making in the way everybody runs their daily lives? Has it done anything? Has it changed anything that you can tell? Or do you think people just aren't really grasping what's happening?
Well, people are realizing this is for real, that the government has this material. But again, I've always said it's never going to change your life, even if you know that they blew up the World Trade Center or that UFOs are real. It really doesn't change anything. It's still going to come down to what do you think that your life is about, and what are you doing about, and most people, their life is about surviving, about paying the bills, about not getting thrown out of their house, about taking their kids to soccer practice. That's for most people what it's about, and it's just an interest item for most people, and that's why we can never get this thing going. Is because most people, they don't want to donate to the thing. I mean, they'll sit there and listen to a story, they'll listen to you, but the minute you have to put some money up or whatever, because it really doesn't affect anybody's daily life, it doesn't affect your paycheck or anything like that. And so for most people, it's like an interesting story that they like to hear. I mean, in the 19th century, we used to have mediums. We'd call in mediums and do seances and talk to dead people, and now we follow UFO stories. For rich people and people who want entertainment, this is what they do, and that's why it's the biggest story for the New York Times, because most people, it's a really cool story. I mean, they don't have to read about Donald Trump today. Now we can, and they even said that this is a break from like Donald Trump, that we can actually do this story and people can take a break and go to this really interesting story about the fact that they had this 37-foot craft that was flipping around, and these guys were chasing it, and it was, doing all these different things, and people look at the video and they go, ooh, ah, but they just go back because you got to take your kid to soccer practice. You got to pay your bills. Most people, it's not going to affect them. And
the deep-seated implications are that we're not alone. So it should be affecting them. But you know what? I think we brainwashed everybody enough. There's so much mind control going on with the damn cell phones and everything. That I don't think everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's like a video game. Okay, cool. I mean, they're not grasping the enormity of it.
And even when that sinks in, the portal people have now started to push. It looks like they realize they've sort of missed the boat here, and they're going to push. I'm 95% sure this portal story is for real. I've got people who may actually be involved in this whole thing. They are pushing this thing, and this goes to a whole new level. This goes to the whole thing of the spiritual aspects of this thing, of the fact that this is not as material as people think it is, that they're coming through these portals, and this completely, absolutely destroys the materialistic paradigm that this whole world is built on. And they're saying that this is a scam story, that it's based on making money, and that this is not the real story, that if you're looking into technology of UFOs, you have missed the story. That's what the portal people are starting to push. So I'm watching them closely now, and to see whether they can actually deliver their story, because they just messed it up. Whereas Bigelow and all the people behind that thing absolutely did this thing to a T. They actually made this thing go viral. The portal people just completely messed up the story that they wanted to put out.
Yeah, because it's not solid enough. It isn't a Bob Bigelow's behind it and here's the money and, we can follow this and here are the pieces. Yeah. They've got this enigma, that they're trying to deal with, and trying to get that to people to believe it. Well, you never know, Grant. Maybe they're going to get a video camera out and they're going to record the whole thing, Well, that's what I've heard. I mean, I can't really say too much about it, but it appears in the next couple of months. And I will say, if it gets confirmed, I will say 100% that this thing's for real, because it sounds like they're going to make a move to sort of prove this indirectly to me, but we'll see what happens. And the people that will be involved, I absolutely will trust with my life that these people will be. It's not going to do anything to me, but so that's the thing, is they're putting down the story of the New York Times as being sort of a money grab, and that may be what it is. It's like you're trying to get a hold of technology. Now Bigelow controls all the technology. He absolutely controls the whole story now, and it's about making money. It's about technology. It's nuts and bolts. And in the end, the UFO story may not be as nuts and bolts as you think it is. Even Jim Semivan, who runs the Tom DeLonge operation, said, and I quote this all the time, and this is a guy who had 3 beings in his room, and his wife was doubled over in the bed, and he suddenly was out in the yard in his pajamas and watched this flying saucer fly away. This is a presidential briefer from the CIA who said the idea that we can measure this thing is laughable. How do you define something where there does not appear to be any there? This has got to do with consciousness. This has got to do with multidimensionality that is beyond anything that we have in science. Yeah, he's absolutely right on. I couldn't have said it better. But see, where is that quote? That should be on every Bible. He wrote it in.
He wrote an intro to Tom DeLonge's second book, And then it ties in. I even got a email from Chris Bledsoe. He said, I just want to let you know that I was the first Star Team person that they did. And the Star Team they had MUFON, but they weren't doing it right. And then Bigelow has 46 full-time people who are the Star Team who go in and investigate UFO stuff. And it was all paid for by Black Ops. But Chris Bledsoe was the first in 2007. And that's when this thing started. And that's why Jim Semivan knew about Chris Bledsoe at the very beginning, because it was all an inside operation. It was going through Bigelow, and they were gathering up all the material from experiencers, and all the MUFON people who thought they were doing it, to increase things were basically working for the Black Ops.
That's right. Absolutely. And I knew that from the very beginning, too. I knew it. I smelled a rat. I was like, no. There's much more to this story than people think, because everybody got, as the story came out back then, everybody bailed or jumped ship or whatever, but there was a certain core group of people that were basically winking at each other. And I knew something was deep going on. Really, seriously, Yeah.
There you go.
Oh my God!
So you can put it in your book. You can put it in your book. Your part of your story, because I got to hear your story too. You gotta disclose now.
Well, there's nothing to really
disclose
except for that my aliens or angels or whatever I do. I don't deal with grays. I don't deal with any of these guys. I was unfortunate enough not to get all that, I guess. But mine is very subtle. But man, I'm telling you, Grant, the things they tell me. See, what they've been doing all along is they've been feeding me information from the other side, and at one point, I don't know if I ever told you this, I'm in the car driving back from Las Vegas, and I feel arms come around me through the back seat and hold me around the waist, and then I feel this cold skin up against my cheek right next to me, and I'm driving the car, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And I'm freaking out, and I hear this, I love you. Wow. And I'm going, oh my God. And then I hear, I'm part of the rebellion, for the Reptilian Rebellion. Mm-hmm. You are working with us. We love you. You're doing great work. We're going to keep giving you the information you need, or something like that. It's just, I was so flipped out, I could barely, I'm feeling this cold, clammy skin up against my cheek, and I'm just freaking out. Thank God it was right outside of Pern on the 10 heading towards L.A., and there's a rest stop in the valley there. And I pulled into the rest stop, and I swear to God, Grant, I was shaking like a leaf, and I sat there and shook for about an hour, and then I realized what had happened. They were telling me that all the information they were giving me was an inside track to everything that was going on. Wow. And I was like, holy crapola. That's the only words I can use to describe it. And it's like a knowing. I mean, you're a contactee. You understand that. It's like you just suddenly know stuff, right? Yeah. You're like going, what the heck? And it seems that they've been gearing me or sliding me into doing radio, television, doing all these things so that I could, piece out little bits of information about this. Like, one of the things they told me was that I really didn't follow for a long time was the fact that blind people cannot be controlled by the grays. Okay. Because the only way they can get into your head is through your optical nerve. Yeah. So, they tell me weird stuff like that. Not that it makes any difference to anybody, but it's like, and then when I feel, then these little bits of information keep coming out and people are winking at each other and stuff is going on, and I'm like, you know what? That's not right. That's not what's going on here. I can see right through all their BS. It's like if my BS meter is off the charts. And you know what that's like. I think most of the contactees have highly tuned BS meters. Yeah. And it's very interesting. Melinda's got one too. And when her and I corner somebody, oh my God, look out. The poor person doesn't have a prayer to survive that interrogation. I'm telling you. Wow. So anyhow, yeah. So it's great to know. But I'll tell you what, Grant, you know what I look forward to? I look forward to having a farm and some goats and making pottery and jewelry and just forgetting that I was ever in the whole UFO thing. Because once it's broken and everybody knows it's real, then, our job is done maybe. Maybe we can go play hockey or something.
No, they just drag you down another rabbit hole. Once you're out of that one, they drag you down another one.
God, I hope not. I really do. I was saying this may be my last UFO conference.
Well, that's what I always say. I try to get out of the UFO thing so many times, and every time I do, they drag me in with, some bizarre thing. Like I told the story, like when I went to Shasta, I was out of the UFO thing. I went to meditate on the side of a mountain, and suddenly the cell phone rings, and I get this message from an alien about a story that they wanted to do an option for a movie on my book that I had no interest in. And it was like, I said, you can't even make this stuff up. I mean, I'm back down this rabbit hole, and now this whole thing with Tom DeLonge. And it's like, when Melinda gave me 80 pages of new material on these inside guys, I'm going, oh, no, now we got to do another sort of, presentation or book or something. We got to, all this new material. And it's like, we always have that joke, when people quit the UFO field, we always said, don't worry, they'll be back.
They'll be back.
Nobody's.
No, it's so true. It's so darn true. I just can't even believe it. And I wanted you to know something. I don't know if Melinda told you this, but 2 years ago, Melinda and I had that same packet of paper, and we gave it to some very prominent people in the community, and they never even contacted her about it.
Oh, no. Oh, my.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Her and I have been going over that material with Randy Copain, as I must say.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for a long time. We've been trying to get somebody to pay attention, but it just wasn't time yet,
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate being picked, because I worked on the same thing for so many years, and I'm going, somebody else did the same thing. I'm going, holy cow, this is like, it validates all the stuff I did for many years.
Well, absolutely. I don't think it's a coincidence that we all discovered this right now. That everybody's been working on this on the side, all these years, because it wasn't time yet. But trust me, they're orchestrating what we do. It's not like we get a choice in them.
Yeah. I agree.
So, anyhow, what are you doing for Christmas?
Not too much. I have family dinner, and that's about it. And I do a little bit of volunteer work. And I would say it's probably going to be the same as the last couple of days, like 15 hours a day on this new disclosure as this thing unravels. It's incredible. I mean, I have not got time to do anything. It's unbelievable.
Oh, my God. I hear you. Oh, my God. Well, I'm going to be, by the time this airs, I'll have eaten my Christmas dinner, and I'll be getting ready for New Year's. So it'll be very interesting to see what's happening by that Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
And I should probably have you on the show on IRN probably in January sometime. We'll do an update before the conference. And then we'll get everybody set for the conference, and then they can get the whole history in one evening.
Oh, yeah. That's like I posted on, I did open minds where a lot of these people intelligence people drop this stuff. I put on there, and I also put on my Facebook, fasten your seatbelts. It appears we're about to go very, very fast.
Yeah, I can't wait. Well, happy holidays, Grant. And it was so wonderful having you on. And everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in to this holiday special, and I will see you in 2018. Have a great one. Good night, everyone.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers.
Pizza. Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and